Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me. One more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
Order this meeting, Board of Works for Monday, July 7th, 2025, held in the Francis Huntley Cooper Council Chambers. Attending tonight, myself, Alder Jetzer, and Kim Lobdell, our city engineer, our Director of Public Works, Tim Volker, is also here. Public appearances for non-agenda items, I don't believe we have any for that, so we'll move on to agenda item. If I can move my screen.
Who's Leslie?
Oh, you know what Leslie is for? Yeah, okay. She's going to.
Same thing.
Okay. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the June 16th meeting.
I'll move approval.
Moved by Alder Jetzer. Do we have a second? Second by Kim Lobdell. Questions, corrections, additions? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of the approval of the June 16th Board of Public Works meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The minutes are passed. Next, we have the report of our Director of Public Works, Mr. Tim Volker, P.E.
Good evening. One follow-up item from our June 16th, 2025 Board of Public Works meeting. A question was asked what the concrete pad in Chicory Meadow Park was being installed for, and that was being installed as part of our 2024 sidewalk replacement project for future bike racks in that park. So we had included that. It would have been constructed back in 2024, but that project had got put on hold due to the cold weather that we encountered back in November of 2024. So that's why it was installed this spring and as part of that project. And then our Parks Department will be installing the bike racks here shortly. And then next up, just a couple project updates. I'll start with the Saline Road reconstruction project. Phase 2 of that project, we are finishing up on installing the stormwater and water main improvements, grading of the 9 Bark Drive and Central Park Place roundabout, and the associated concrete work for the curb is anticipated to start later this week. And then for phase 3, the contractor is currently excavating and backfilling with the select crush material. That's the material that was the change order to help strengthen the subgrade for the new roadway. And then also our 2025 street resurfacing project. The senior center parking lot has been resurfaced and striped. Marketplace Drive, north of Executive Drive, is now complete, along with Osmondson Road and Pembroke Court is also complete. Upcoming anticipated work is removal of the asphalt pavement in the library parking lot. We're looking to start that on Thursday afternoon, weather permitting. And then next week we're looking to start Longford Terrace and then also Leopold Way early next week. And then our 2025 ARPA street resurfacing project, all streets except Crescent Road, Aztec Trail, and Pawnee Pass have been bindered, and the contractor is currently installing the surface asphalt on those bindered roads. And then lastly, our 2025 street maintenance project, that's our crack filling and chip seal project. That project has been advertised and bids are due on July 25th, 2025. With that, does anyone have any questions?
Board? Question? Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, so that concrete pad at Chicory Meadow, I guess I was assuming there was going to be a drinking fountain there because I thought, do you remember that there's supposed to be a drinking fountain going in there? And
Well,
where
there was
be?
one, we took it out. I think it was broken, and
At Chicory Meadow?
I thought it went back in.
In this area, I don't think there was one.
Do you know off the top of your head, Tim, whether there's supposed to be one in there?
No, not that I'm aware of. I could
Okay.
check with our park staff to see if anything was planned and report back at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought there was one and it got broke at one time and it was.
Well, maybe in a different location, I think up by Osmond's, let's see, Osmond on the other end. This is way down by Longford Terrace is where this concrete pad was put in. But way up at the other end, there was a drinking fountain that is no longer there.
That's the one I thought we were going to replace.
But it would be in a different location. It wouldn't be at where this concrete pad was.
I just thought right next to the basketball court and tennis court would be an ideal
Makes
place
the
for
most
one.
sense, yeah. Like Kim says, I'm sure one was there, and I think something happened. We were planning to replace it. You check with Adam and the staff, or check with Jordan.
Will do. I can report back at our next meeting.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Every subsequent meeting, we need to ask a question about that spot in Chicory Meadow.
I was just there on the 4th of July for the little kids' parade, and I didn't look. Anything else, Bill? I had a couple, Tim. Are the contractors on schedule with Saino? We've had a lot of rain, and I know that sets them
So
back.
phase 2 is currently on schedule. Phase 3, we are going to have a delay with the change order. So right now, the contractors submitted a change request for time for 47 days, and Wisconsin Department of Transportation and the contractor are negotiating that time frame. Since DOT has the contract, so once that gets negotiated, I'll report back to the board the new completion date, which originally was August 29th, 2025. So we're looking, probably most likely into October for that project.
Okay. I was kind of expecting that. I didn't expect 47 extra days, but Kim would have a better handle on that. That's not my business very well. But second thing, with the road reconstruction, on Executive Drive, they got that done. They've had the curb, and the project's been going on a long time. Like it was 3 weeks ago, they replaced the curb and gutter. I work on Marketplace Drive there, and there's kind of piles of debris next to where some of the curbs were replaced. And are they behind schedule? It seems like people are asking me at work. They said, "Why is it taking so long to get done?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'll ask tonight. See if you have a sense of anything, if they've been delayed by rain or whatever." It just seems like it's going very, very slow.
So yeah, the last couple weeks have been pretty wet. As far as the resurfacing project, the sequencing for that project was for their subcontractor for the concrete to come in and remove everything and replace the concrete first. So that took place. Restoration tends to lag behind with that. And then kind of with Executive Drive, we have Fire Station number 2 up there. So to sequence that work, we had to make sure that the fire department had access to roadways in and out. So we had to kind of phase it a little. I guess the segments of roadway we would have liked to have done would have been more if that fire station wasn't there. However, due to the fire station, we had to strategically break that segment of the project up, so it is going to take longer, unfortunately.
Thank you for that explanation. That makes sense. And also, I want to thank the information about the second coat on the ARPA projects in the Belmar. I had a resident call me, "Hey, better put another coat on. People are going to fall off the curb or whatever." And I said, "Why don't you wait till the project's done before you start complaining to me? Take a Quaalude, So thank you for that update on that. I'm going to follow up with her right away. And I think that's all I had, Tim. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so that takes us to agenda item 5. Would one of you like to offer?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to amend our agenda to switch 5B to be first so that we can have Claire and Leslie and Joyce out of here in timely fashion.
Okay. All right.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Vote on the change of agenda. All in favor of the agenda change signify by saying aye. Aye. Our agenda is modified. So next I'll entertain a motion for resolution R-11725.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution R-11725.
I'll second.
Second. Okay. So we have Joyce and Claire. Okay. So I'll just add, these are 2 properties on Smithfield Road where they've identified making improvements to improve the energy efficiency and I would just say the livability of these units here, which includes ceiling, weatherizing, attic work, new refrigerators, furnace work, and cost for the cost for this roughly $250,000, and this is paid by the housing. The money will come out of the housing fund,
Affordable housing
fund, and this is targeted to. We're targeted at older residents, multi-unit that are not subsidized. So that's all I want to. Tim, do you want to add anything before we turn it over to Joyce?
I'll let Joyce take it
Okay.
over from here.
All right, Joyce, you're up.
Thanks for moving us ahead. We really appreciate that. So this, as you remember, is Project 2 of the Efficiency Navigator implementation. We started with the smaller projects first in the hopes to utilize some rebates, refunds, and we also applied for a grant with the City of Madison, but unfortunately, some of that funding has not come forward. So we're gonna just keep pushing along. So this is for the remainder of the properties that were identified in the initial assessment.
Okay. So
Any questions?
So let me just page down a second, Joyce. Give me a second here.
Yeah, I've got a question. Joyce, how many total units are in this particular resolution?
Oh, boy. Good question.
Yeah, I was going to go.
On the first page of each one, so there's, in the packet, there's a listing by contractor, and then there's also a listing by street address. Let me pull up the packet and I can probably tell you. Claire, do you happen to know that right offhand?
I'd have to go into a different spreadsheet to get just these properties. In total, we're looking about 60 units across the entire proposal that was approved.
60 units, really?
Well, no, across the entire project.
Oh, okay, this is just
Yeah.
number 2 that we're looking
So I think
at.
probably we could
If you
go.
give me a second, I can pull that up.
Take
We
your
could
time.
probably go through the RG invoice or
Yeah.
quotes and count the number of furnaces or something, but
The number of refrigerators, maybe.
Yeah, there were 4. I saw 4.
Well, there's each one has a different number in it. Six in the first one.
I'm just going to bring up that address. Bear with me a sec here.
4 in the second one. That's 10. 4 in the third one, 14. 3 in the next one, 17. 6 in the last one, so 23 maybe?
The contract's in there too, isn't it? Because it should state in the contract what the unit breakdown is. But let me pull that up. So, let's see.
So one is 2605 Smithfield Drive, and I think that's a 4-unit. And then the other one.
Well, there's some on Deerfield and some on Williamsburg Way, too. It's not just Smithfield.
You missing those? I only saw those 2 addresses.
201 to 203 on Deerfield, 2114 Red Arrow, 2605 Smithfield, 2609 Smithfield, 2641 Smithfield, and 5671 Williamsburg Way.
When I look through the pack,
Look on page 13 of our packet.
page 13 of our packet, okay. When I went through, I only saw okay, there, I see it there. See the Williamsburg.
And the Deerfield and the Red Arrow and 3 Smithfields.
Okay.
Apologies for derailing.
Yeah.
Do you want to just go ahead and continue?
Go ahead, Joyce. Continue, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not actually finding it, and I've got so much stuff in here. Sorry about that. But I can give you the breakdown. I thought the total was 72 units total. We broke them down by cost, and first we did I don't want to say easier projects, but for sake of finding another word, the easier projects were done first. And then, like I said, we were hoping to capitalize on some refunds from the Inflation Reduction Act, and also that joint grants that we applied for.
Okay. All right. You said, I believe there were 62 units?
She said 72. Claire said 60 originally.
I'm sorry, I
I'm
can
not
hardly
that.
hear Dave.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get the number of units right. Was it 72 or 60? I guess it's not that critical to me. I just like to make sure I'm reflecting it properly.
So I'm looking at the summary from Brothers Maine is $12,000, and each refrigerator is like 670, so it's about 18
Yep.
refrigerators.
Okay.
In this proposal.
That's what I thought. That. So are they replaced, Joyce? Are the refrigerators and all these being replaced, or just like Kim was saying, like 18 of them?
Not in all the units,
Okay.
just the ones that were determined that they needed updating.
Okay.
They're doing some furnaces. They run across a couple of attics that are full of mold. So we had one change order in phase 2, project 1, where they were just going to add additional insulation, but they ended up going in and finding out that the roof was needing replacement. And so that is completely new insulation. And I think we have another one coming in this phase that ran into the same situation.
Okay. So the roof replacement, we're funding the roof replacement?
No, the property owner is actually funding the roof replacement.
Good, all right. That was a little more than I wanted us to get into. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's not part of their program, so it's just energy efficiency updates.
I think there were a couple where they had stairs going up into the attic. They were taking the stairs out and then putting a more insulation in, and then a solid things
Okay,
to, I'm sure, help with weatherization.
okay.
How much money is available in this program, the Affordable Care? I know you said you applied for grants and you didn't get them. So how much money do we have available in the Affordable Housing Fund?
We have $10 million.
Okay.
We just put together a kind of a bucket list of some of the projects that we want to do. And that just went to the council, I believe, at their last meeting. We've allocated $1 million for this program. And I think the first round here was 310. And we also have some windows that will be coming in a separate resolution. And I think that's about 224 to do several buildings. And some of those are on Smithfield. And Dave, I'm sure you know which properties we're talking about.
Yeah.
You can actually see through the windows. They're horrible.
Yeah, I know. I know which ones you're talking about, Joyce. The question I had, so I'll make sure on this. I don't think these are the properties. Gabe, our inspector, has told me there's a number of properties on Smithfield that he feels they should be leveled and start over. The owner is not taking good care of them, and long-term prospects aren't great. Did we have any contact? Did we talk with Gabe at all? I would like this to go to responsible landlords that are doing their best, and not an absentee one that's not taking care of his properties. But I couldn't get a hold of him this afternoon to talk to him. Did either of you have a talk with Gabe at all in the building inspection?
If you recall, Dave, we did, before we did this project, we did an actual neighborhood walk. And we, at that time, identified several, what we would call our wish list of items that you could see from the street that needed replacement. And the project was open to, we reached out to every apartment building that was a 16 unit or less. And it was a voluntary program. So, if the landlord or the owner was interested, we were willing to do it.
Okay.
And Claire just sent me an email with the total units were 76 in 10 buildings, and then this phase 2 is 44 units in 6 buildings.
So this phase, we have 44 in 6 buildings, or is this, there's 2 projects here, right?
Right.
Okay.
So total of 76
Okay.
units in 10 buildings, and then this project is 44 units in 6 different buildings.
Okay. So it's, if we look at roughly, we're in the neighborhood of 44 units, or 5,000 to 6,000 a unit is what we're looking at, these upgrades, which seems like a reasonable number to me. You can, any of you, if you've
And
done.
if you recall, the criteria is they have to be at 80% or less of Dane County AMI. The tenant must pay all the utilities, and they have to sign a 5-year community benefit letter stating that they'll only raise the rent as high as the HUD allocations for that AMI.
Okay.
So it's a direct benefit to the actual tenant.
Okay. I didn't have any other questions. Just for people, we're using the housing fund. There's no, the city won't be repaid for any of this. The Affordable Housing Fund is money from the TID, and so we're spending this money to improve these units, and to have them fall into disrepair or not improve them, I think ends up. It's the landlord's responsibility to take care of his units. He's fortunate that we're willing to step in and because we need affordable housing in the city, and we can't afford to let our units fall into disrepair. So it seems, Joyce, this seems like a reasonable amount for remodeling or improvement. Anyone that's done home improvement knows that 6,000 goes out the window pretty quick. 6,000. Yeah, you're right, Bill. You're right. Yeah. Okay. Joyce and Claire, what's the time frame here?
As soon as we get this contract approved, they're ready to start.
Okay. Do you anticipate the work would be all completed this year? Do you have any sense?
I'm sure it's going to depend on availability of contractors and also materials. But I would hope that they would be complete this year, and I see a smile from Claire, so I think we're getting a positive response there. Okay. Leslie, do you have anything to add? Leslie's with Elevate, who's doing a lot of the actual supervision of the contractors and did a lot of the assessments.
No, I don't really have anything else to add. As far as the contractor question goes, yes, we are expecting that these projects would be done by the end of this year. Of course, understanding that sometimes there are complications, but the expectation is that, yeah, they'll be all finished.
Okay. Thank you, Leslie.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No. Leslie, while you're on, then, how much is your on-site presence, looking over the contractor's work? I'm hoping it's more than just looking at it when it's done. Can you give me any sense of that?
Sure. So we have construction managers that work with the contractors and the owners basically every step of the way. So our team puts together the scope of work for the contractors, which is where the bids come from, the cost estimates. And then anything that changes along the way goes through both the owner and our construction management team, as well as if there's any changes in costs, that goes through several other team members as well. And then the construction managers are on site when the work begins, and then they do a walkthrough before they sign off on it too. Okay. So before the city inspection gets done, our construction management team signs off on the work.
Thank you, Leslie. Bill, did you have anything else?
Yeah. Are we concerned that some of the project home quotes expired in April? Are they going to honor those prices?
Yes, they are, and we have documentation confirming in writing that they're honoring the prices.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
So some of the RG estimates, the ones for the new furnaces and heat pumps, we are doing some amount of building envelope improvements. I guess ideally we wouldn't need the backup furnace. We could get by with just the air source heat pump. Is there any commentary on why we need both?
I'm going to let Leslie comment on that. She has a very clear and thorough explanation.
Yeah, so for the dual fuel, the hybrid systems, because of the prices of natural gas and electricity, if they were to run those heat pumps to do the primary heating, that would end up costing the tenants much more money. So the way that these will be set up is at an economic switchover point, which means the natural gas will do the heating for most of the time, and the heat pump will only do heating in like the shoulder seasons when it's not that cold outside. Again, this is all set up to save tenants on their utility costs and not increase those costs for these low to moderate income residents.
That makes sense. Okay.
And I'll just add to the dual fuel heat pump, it gives really high efficiency cooling. So there's also going to be a little bit of cost savings on the air conditioning side. And then it kind of gives a little bit of a future opportunity should prices change, utility costs. If for some reason electricity would become cheaper than natural gas, this system can switch to use more electric heating through the heat pump. That's just not the case right now, but it does have that capability.
Leslie, do any of these units have heat pumps right now? I'm assuming
They do not.
So you'll have to be installing the field, or what, as they call it, the
Oh
underground system. The heat.
No, so these are not geothermal heat pumps.
These are air source heat pumps.
source heat
Okay,
pumps,
thank
yeah.
you. Say you can't do that for this price. All right.
No.
And I guess just as kind of a public service, I don't know if you have these numbers off the top of your head, but like 1 therm of natural gas is just under 30 kilowatt hours of energy. So on a per kilowatt hour basis, do you know what the price differential is between electricity and gas? Is it 5 to 1-ish?
I don't have it at my fingertips.
But that's the issue, is that an air source heat pump will use less energy than a gas furnace, but because gas is so much cheaper, it'll wind up costing more money.
Understood. And you might wear that part out, kind of like what happened at our library. So, all right. Kim, anything else?
Nope, I was going to ask about the proposal expiration, since this was through two, and make sure we were still good on that and weren't going to get a change order immediately when it started. So,
And one more question then.
Go ahead, Bill.
So Joyce, you had mentioned that we had done, the quicker moving, low hanging fruit first, and you had mentioned part of that was getting federal tax credits for the improvements. With the passage of H.R. 1, most of the rebates for energy efficiency and renewable energy are, I think, phased out as of December 31st of 2027. Does that affect our timeline at all with our overall projects?
That's above my pay grade, since so what we're doing is we're just supplying the contractors with the funding. We're not applying for any of the rebates or doing any investigations as far as what qualifies and what doesn't. We've left that up to our experts at Sustain Dane and Elevate to investigate what we can qualify and what we can't. So that's a good question, but I can't answer it. Claire, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and there has been so much uncertainty about where the rebates are going to fall. So these quotes do not include the federal rebates. As we go to install, if there's an opportunity to apply them, we will pursue that with the contractors. But there are also a number of steps that a contractor would need to go through. So again, a lot of uncertainty there. The focus on energy rebates, so the state rebates, those have been applied, and we are benefiting from those.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions on this? Thank you for answering the multitude of questions we have. As you can tell, we're very interested in this project. We see what the costs are if a places get run down or become uninhabited. And so, maintaining a housing stock or housing in the city, for affordable and keeping these older units viable is in our best interest. I think it should be the landlord's job to be doing this, but we're giving them a little boost to help them along, I guess.
Do we have any idea if all of these units are fully occupied at this point in time?
Yes, they are.
And, I mean, but the tenants, they're probably on a lease, they could move, I mean, depending on something, and then it would be up to the landlord to refill that place. But with these improvements, he would probably have a better opportunity to get new tenants in, too.
Well, again, he can't raise the rate.
Can't raise the rate, no, so, that's what I said. If somebody were to move out for a particular reason, he would have a good opportunity to get a new tenant in there, because it would be a reasonable rate and higher efficiencies or lower utility bills, hopefully.
Yeah, the occupancy in in the area is pretty much 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, you seldom even see a sign, that there's a unit available.
Joyce may know the vacancy rate for the city off the top of her head.
Last time I checked, we were at like 3%. If you're at 5%, it's equilibrium. So we still have a lot of work to do with getting units on the market.
Okay. All right, any more questions? No. Don't call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 11725, approve a contract between the City of Fitchburg and Sustain Dane for implementation of Phase 2, Project 2 of the Efficiency Navigator Program, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This passes. Thank you, Joyce, Claire,
Thank you.
and Leslie. Okay.
You'll see me one more time when I come back with my window request.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for the warning. All right.
You bet.
Okay. Next, we have Resolution R 125, adopting the 2026 through 2035 CIP plan. We have a motion to approve.
I'll move approval.
Moved by Alder Jetser. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Member Kim Lobdell. All right. I will, this is our chance to ask Tim questions, and so I'll let the board members fire the first salvos here if they have some.
Do we want to get any sort of a summary from Tim first?
Yeah, thank you. Let's do that. And I'll just mention too, our approval is just the Board of Public Works section, not fire, police, administrative, AV, senior center. Ours is the largest portion, but I'll let Tim give us a recap here.
Thank you. Fitchburg Finance Ordinance Section 10.68A requires adopting a capital improvement program setting forth the capital improvements, estimated costs, and proposed funding sources for each project or capital expenditure. Section 10.68C requires the CIP to be reviewed each year by the Board of Public Works, Plan Commission, and Finance Committee. Section 10.68D allows the CIP to be modified, supplemented, altered, extended, or amended by the Common Council by majority vote after first referring the proposed changes to the City Plan Commission for comments and suggestions. We're looking for Council to approve the attached 2026-2035 CIP.
All right. If you wanted to pick, are there 5 things that stick out in your mind that are coming that are more urgent? If you wanted to, I'll put you on the spot a little, just a snapshot.
Are you asking Tim?
I'm asking Tim.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You didn't know there'd be a test tonight.
I guess maybe to start, it would be,
Go ahead.
could you maybe, for the people who are watching on TV, give us a brief summary of any projects that have been completely removed or new projects that have been added in the first 5 years. I don't think
That's- yep.
we don't need
Thank you.
anything in the last 5 years. But if anything has completely dropped off, I don't know, funding has changed in a couple of them, but I don't think anything has completely dropped, but that would be of interest, or any new projects that we have found that were important enough to add into the first 5 years.
One project that comes to mind that was dropped off, and I believe was probably the only project, at least for public works purposes, was Project 3109, the transit shuttle. So that's been in the CIP, and that has been dropped off or removed out of the CIP for 2026 to 2035. A lot of the projects, not many have gotten moved up. If anything, most of them, if they were revised, were just updated for cost purposes to reflect, current construction costs, or they were revised to kind of push out just because, either development wasn't ready to put in that infrastructure, like if it was a water main extension or sewer extension, a lot of times, too, we revise projects to coincide, like a resurfacing project. Take Irish Lane, for instance. That was kind of pushed back to coincide with water main and sewer improvements. And then also stormwater projects, a couple, I believe, were pushed back just because the kind of the timing of all the projects. We look at kind of workload too for staff. So depending on, we're still catching up a little bit from the staffing shortage the city experienced 2 to 3 years ago, where a couple of our resurfacing projects haven't gotten out as fast as we would have liked. So we're still playing catch up a little bit. So we kind of push some projects to allow for staff to kind of bring those up to speed and then eventually catch up on the capital side.
So there haven't been any completely new projects that have been added that would be funded within the first 5 years of this that had not been in the capital improvement plan before?
That I don't believe happened. None is coming to mind right away. If anything, it got new project, and the document, let me just open up kind of our worksheets and I can. So in the water section, the new projects was Tower F, and that's to purchase the land. Yep. It technically wasn't a new project. We re-budgeted the money, so that money it's just for the land acquisition. A budget amendment was done this past year or the year before to use that for a different project, so we had to re-budget to purchase the land for Tower F, and that was put in 2027. The Tower E bulk fill station in Water 2, that was added, so that's something new for 2026, and that's $50,000 being paid for by the water utility rates. In streets, the new projects were the Oregon Rotary Trail Extension, and that was put off towards the end of the CIP in years 9 or 10. And then also we created a path maintenance and improvement project. Really, that was just our sidewalk project and bike paths were all one project. So just for ease of accounting and project management, we broke that into 2 different projects. So that was done in streets. In storm, we had the Triverton Greenway bioretention basins. That's a new project that we added for design in 2028 and 2029, and that came out of our total maximum daily load stormwater quality update project. In sanitary, we added the Irish Lane sanitary sewer extension project. Design was in 2028, and then in year 2029 is construction.
Tim, as long as we're talking about the Irish Lane sanitary sewer, can you speak at all about if that is that for sure going in 2029? Do we think? So, I guess all of Irish Lane. You said the resurfacing of the road was being pushed back to 2029 to coincide with the sanitary and water main. What does that mean for the residents along that road?
So the CIP is a planning document. It's not a guarantee. It's a document the city utilizes to plan for projects. So every year we take a look at each project and either update it, leave it the same, remove it. We add projects. So stuff can get shifted. This particular project, it was shifted. So the resurfacing project was delayed from 2026 through 2028 to 2027 to 2029 to time with those utility projects. It's not a guarantee that those improvements will go in. A lot of that's contingent upon development. So if development isn't, happening in 2029, the city could at that time make a decision, put in the utility improvements, or not do it and push off if development's off. The city can also, even this year, we still have time for amendments to move up the resurfacing and push that stuff off. So at any time, this stuff can be changed. It's not written in stone.
Would these, would both the sewer and the water, would those be under the road?
Sewer would be under the road. Water currently is on the south side of the road, and we'd look to upsize it to connect for a future well to the east. So most likely would stay on the south side of the road. Okay. Another part of this project, not to complicate it, not just the utilities, but also the bike paths too. Yep. Do you, when you resurface the road, add it at that time, or do you push that off? There is a grant solicitation out there too, the STBG U grant that the MPO put out. Solicitations or applications are due August 11th, 2025. However, Irish Lane would be a good project for that with the bike lanes and the resurfacing. However, funding from the state wouldn't be available till 2030, 2031. So that could further push this project, with the roadway, the condition it is, it's tough to... Yeah. There's a lot going on. Whether all this works out at the same time, that's to be determined.
Yeah, my preference would be to find an alternate place to put the bike trail, a parallel path somewhere that it doesn't have to be on Irish, but all right. Any other questions for Tim on projects? I guess I'll let you guys shoot.
Yeah, I guess on Irish Lane specifically, how long would we wait before we say, no, that needs to be resurfaced? And if we do the resurfacing without putting in the additional the sewer and the water infrastructure, what would that mean if 5 or 10 years later we do want to put that infrastructure in? Would we have to tear up the bulk of the road again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so say that the city moved forward with resurfacing the road, no bike lanes, and decided to hold off on the water and sewer. What you would have to do would be to come in and then open cut a brand new roadway. So you're going to have joints where you don't have joints. Joints are a weak spot in the road where water can seep in and cause the road to deteriorate faster. Open cutting a road too, there's a cost associated with that you wouldn't have when you're reconstructing the road. So when you go in and reconstruct the road, at that time you want to put in your utilities because the roadway's already ripped up. You're paying for the road to be ripped up, so to put in the utilities at that time, you're saving on that cost.
What is the width of the right-of-way there? Is it pretty tight?
I can pull it up.
It's got to be tight. There's those trees, those big trees right there. It seems like they're right on the road.
I guess I'm wondering if at some point we decide we have to do the resurfacing, and then a few years down the line we decide we want to put in the utilities. At that same time, could we put in a bike path and put the utilities under the bike path?
Yeah.
It looks like it's a 60-foot right-of-way, so it's pretty narrow.
Am I correct, Tim, that the water and sewer would pretty much be needed to? Those would be put into service future development in the greenfield. Is that what those would? Why we would put those in?
Well, and then also so there are vacant parcels. So yes, if those were to get developed, the sewer would service those, but then also you'd be, in order to get to those parcels, the existing homes along Irish, kind of on the closer to the Cyene side, would be required to connect.
Yeah. If Bill, you're aware, the greenfield development, a lot is hinging on those Stoneman properties, and it didn't sound like they are the parents that own them, or they're not interested in developing, but you never know. Everyone has their price, but okay. All right. Anything else? Thanks for the explanation on that. Tim, I had one, let's see, it was 4810, the Belmar water main replacement. That's I think from original from the city. It's just at the end of its life. I think that one we've had multiple leaks on that, or do we have any concern with lead?
No concern with any lead, just kind of the leaks.
Okay.
And looking to replace it before it becomes a major issue.
So would we, if we did that main, then are we replacing also, we replace from the main to the lateral valve that feeds each house? Would that be part of that? Or would some of those be able to reconnect them? They're all, I'm guessing they're all about the same age, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, from the curb stop to the house, we would not replace, but that we would reconnect their service to the house, or to the new main.
Right. Okay. And then I had asked you about what number was it? The water, the 8th Road, and I wrote it down here. We had $600,000 for the water main on Haight, and that showed as being paid by assessment. And I don't know if we can determine who would be assessed for that. There aren't that many. There aren't that many residents on Haight Road, especially the north side.
So it would be the vacant parcels on the north and south side. The couple there are. As part of the Uptown Hills project, the developer is putting in the water main at their cost. Okay. So that portion would be extended and not assessed at all. And then it would be I believe there's a city owns the parcel to the east of Uptown Hills.
So say when we say assessment, but then the city owns a lot of it, so I'll be paying for that. I'll be paying for the or the sections.
And then
where
to the
there's not-
south, you have the Hartung Brothers
Hartung.
property.
Looks like the Hartung would be paying the majority of it. Okay, that answers my question.
Well, would there be any sort of an additional assessment for any new development that might go in on the north in the future? Or to the east of Hartung on the south?
Are we talking west of the Highway 14?
Yeah.
Yes. So if those parcels get developed, they would pay a prorated portion of the water main that goes in, or assess for it.
Okay.
Or else the current property owner would pay it if it hasn't developed yet, and then they would pass that on in lot costs.
When they
I'm
sell
sure. Yeah.
to develop it.
Yeah, that's probably a more typical way that it would happen.
Okay. The only other thing I had was a comment, all the buildings, city buildings and things that we have in the budget is $6.5 million to remodel the police, the existing police station, right? Right now, I think everyone's aware of the cost, what we're going to spend to put in a new police station. I don't think everyone is acutely aware what it's going to cost us to redo that section to make it efficient for the new city uses. All right. Kim, I would add there, you asked her anything new. They did put in, next year, Bill was on transportation, the Vision Zero, and put in, the mayor has $180,000 in the budget for Vision Zero projects. Not one that jumps out and grabs you, but it's still, add a few 180,000 and then you got real money. So I didn't have any more questions. Bill?
Nope.
I went through it all, and I'm good with.
All right. I would just
as
add
proposed.
thank you for all the work. Work in putting this together. I know it's a large burden on the staff to update it and keep it current. But I think you all heard me say many times, failing to plan is planning to fail. So.
Were there any comments at the meeting on June 24th, the public hearing related to public works projects that we would be good for us to know?
I believe it was Irish Lane. There was
Yeah.
probably two to four people maybe that spoke out regarding that, specifically the sewer as part of that project.
They did not want the sewer?
They were against.
Well, yeah, and so
because
Tim,
they had
maybe,
to connect.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe you can comment, I think the figure that was thrown out was $30,000 to $50,000 per household to connect to the sanitary sewer. Do you have any idea what an actual number might be?
No, we don't. That varies. There's three components to a existing residential single-family home that would get charged that. You would have the assessment for the actual sewer itself, so the 8-inch gravity main that goes out in front of their house, and then there'd be an interceptor fee, and then also MMSD fees on top of that too. So, and the thing to remember too is with the interceptor right now, it's up at the intersection right by the roundabout on Lacey and Haight Farm. Okay. And then as part of that Uptown Hills project, we'll be extending this interceptor kind of to the north of that project, bringing it to the north property line of Hartung and stopping there. So it still has to go through Hartung and then through the Haas property just to get down to Irish Lane. So, timing of that interceptor is critical, because if we're reconstructing Irish Lane and putting in sewer, it may be a dry line just because the interceptors, people can't connect to the pipe out in front of their house if the interceptor's not down there. And it's timing's the biggest thing with this.
Yeah, they don't want to pay anything if it's dry and they're not going to be able to be using it
Right.
at that point in time.
Yeah. You shouldn't have to.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts in this whole,
Yeah.
that whole project
Yes.
area, and to try to get it so it works together. I don't know, the condition of Irish Lane is not very good, and like you said, is the possibility of, really needing to have that before you decide if the utilities are gonna go. I don't know if it's a possibility at all of being able to do some kind of an interim improvement on the roadway rather than reconstructing the whole thing if you're still up in the air about the water and sewer, like a 2-inch overlay or something, rather than doing the whole reconstruction and then having to, 2, 3, 4 years later, open cut it and put in the utilities. But that's all down the road for future planning too, but it might be something that you guys keep in mind if the condition of the road is really bad, to try to do some kind of an interim improvement to hold it for 5, 6 years until you get the utility thing.
Yeah, and that's something we are looking internally at, kind of as part of this CIP process. The questions that have come out is something maybe in the interim that we could do to get us to the 5-10 year mark,
Right.
to maybe get that grant to put in the
Yeah,
bike lanes,
right,
and
to change it
and
to
then you
30.
would know more about the utilities at that time too, whether to put them in or push them off a little bit more. Another thing we looked at, or we're looking at, maybe just doing the western portion of Irish from Fish Hatch to Kane, because there is no utilities associated with that.
Yeah.
So maybe just going ahead, doing a pulverize and overlay there, at least getting that in good condition, and then maybe doing something like Kim, you mentioned, just like a 2-inch overlay on the eastern portion and get you through, the next 5-10 years.
Like you said, it does buy you a little bit of time, especially if that grant looks like it would be good and it's, 2030, 2031 or whatever.
Right.
You don't like to really piecemeal things as
No.
much as you can, but sometimes you need to, and it's better to spend a little bit of money than all of the reconstruction and then rip it up, so.
Yeah, what some residents have kind of privately confided in me, they don't mind the road, and they'd rather have the road in bad condition than
Yeah.
pay for the water and sewer. And they go, well, the bad road keeps the speed down.
Yeah, and keeps the
But ruins-
traffic down.
Ruins your car, ruins
Yeah,
your car too.
yeah.
All right, enough said.
So the future scheduling on this is, once this part, we go through this, that you're taking amendments for the next 2 to 3 weeks on the capital improvement plan?
Amendments are due to
Due-
Misty on the
22nd.
21st,
Yeah,
right?
so 2
yes.
weeks, basically.
Yep. So if
Little
you have
over- yeah,
something
2
you'd like
weeks.
me to submit,
Yeah,
me or
yeah.
Alder Jetser as an
Okay.
amendment, you.
And then another
Pass them on
public
to us.
hearing, and then final improvement after that.
Correct.
All right, any more discussion? Okay. Seeing none, then all in favor of Resolution R-125 adopting 2026 through 2035 CIP signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, it passes. Next, I'll entertain a motion to postpone Resolution R-11225 until July 21st meeting, is that right?
Yeah, I'll move that we postpone Resolution R-11225 to our next Board of Public Works meeting due to lack of quorum today.
I'm recusing myself, so
Okay,
you're going to have to
I'll second
it.
that motion. All in favor of postponement signify by saying aye. Aye. Kim abstains. We are postponed. Our next Board of Public Works meeting is Monday, July 21st at 5:30. If anyone can't make it, please let me know. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move we adjourn.
Moved by
I'll
Alder
second.
Jetser, second by Member Lobdell. All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned at 6:34.